Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Playable Worlds. Today's a big day for us, and I'm really happy you're here with us. My apologies for starting a couple minutes late. We had a last-minute gameplay stream crash and a couple things. Those things happen. I want to introduce to you Avi. You guys have seen him
Hello.
before. He's been on a bunch of videos and stuff. Avi, tell them what you want them to know about you.
You guys already know a fair bit if you've been hanging out on Discord, but I'm one of the engineers. I've been here almost 4 years, which now is, when I look back at it, that's a long time. Um, I'm our self-acclaimed melee aficionado, and these days I'm working a lot on combat systems, but I've been working on back-end systems like client optimizations, kind of all over the place, right? Like in a startup, you work in a lot of places. It'll in a very, very short amount of time. So yeah, I
You know
see
what I
someone
just
said
noticed?
it's hard to hear us. Is our volume okay?
Do we need to talk louder or something?
Maybe I do. It's YouTube big
Okay.
boy voice.
All right. All right. Well, first, while you were introducing yourself just now, our Kickstarter went live. Yay! If you refresh the page right now, you'll see it looks different, and there's a lot more information there. And it has a green button where you can back this project. And I'm excited. Oh, geez, the number's going up as we watch.
Wow.
Holy crap. Excuse me. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to watch that at the moment. That's too distracting. Wow, that's really cool. I also want to thank Light for playing the character in the background there. Light has snuck onto the playtest server slightly early with their exceptional dev permissions. You will, if you land on the same planet here in the playtest in a minute, you will be able to see Light running around making trouble, dancing among the cacti. This is the way. Excellent. And also, big thank you to Thomas, who is the stream engineer behind the scenes, keeping everything rolling and together. And I don't know how. Holy cow! If we, oh geez, that number's, yeah. Okay, pull it
You're right,
together,
it is
Reynolds.
distracting.
It is destructing. Yeah. And I'm Carneros. If you don't know me, I'm a marketing community guy for Playable Worlds, and some of you know me from previous games I have worked on or have played with you. Thank you very much for coming and support. Today's stream is a combination of a couple things. It's a dev interview with Avi. Avi's one of my favorite people at Playable Worlds, so I'm looking forward to you getting to know him better too. And then it's also kind of a Q&A and hangout while the Kickstarter gets started. We wanted to be able to talk to you guys and answer questions and tell you what's going on and just be excited together for a little. I will point out that we are going to have other streamers come on in an hour or two when the live streams, when the gameplay starts. Avi, is that starting at 9 or 10? Do you know? But
Um,
there'll be other streamers coming on soon. We'll hand off to one of them when we get far
I believe
enough.
it's 9.
Avi and I have a stand up to do in a couple hours. Um, and then, oh dear
In
Lord,
52 minutes.
Old Man Observer. Wow. Thank you, bro. Wow. I'm not going to say anything, but thank you. Also, um, in 52 minutes, okay, there other people might be streaming, and we'll hand off to one of them and tell you about them. Wow. Okay, and then in addition to that, there will be another live stream at 1 p.m. Pacific. That'll be me, and another one at 6 p.m. Pacific with Raf. So keep in mind, we're going to stream several times today just because we're all full of adrenaline and coffee at the moment. So that's what's going on. That page. Okay. Yeah, this is exciting, you guys. We've been working our butts off, just 3 years for me, but more for the rest of the team. And this is, it's exciting to reach this point here and know we're as close as we are to launching this game. Thank you very much. Very excited. Let's start with, are there any questions in chat we should be paying attention to? And I'm adjusting the shape of my microphone. Let's see. Yeah, Old Man Observer, thank you very much. The goal of 200K was way too low. That was my impression too, but we have an old friend of the company who's been managing Kickstarters for, I almost said 100 years, but that's probably not nice. But for a long time, and he suggested going low like that. Now, he wasn't working on the game. He hasn't played the game. He doesn't know the game community. So he's working based on how Kickstarter works. Maybe we should have gone a little bit lower now that I see what's going, because we're nearly halfway there. And we're only 10 minutes in, not even 10 minutes, because we started a couple minutes late. Okay. But yeah,
Hey, Rick.
I'm agreeing with Old Man. What's up, Obby?
It's in a pretty good question in chat for people who are new to Stars Reach and don't know what it's about. Do you want to quickly go over what the game even is?
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Yeah, it is a sandbox, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, MMORPG, with a science fantasy setting. Let me break that down for a moment. It's a game where you can do anything you want, go in any direction you want, make anything out of your life, kind of like real life, but in a virtual world that goes 24/7. You log in, you play for a while, you need to have a character. You play that character, you log off. The world keeps going without you. It keeps changing, it keeps developing. The next time you log back in, you find out what happened while you were gone. You ask your friends, you join a guild, they keep you up to. It's amazing. I started playing my first one of these called Meridian 59 in 95 and got hooked. It's a compelling lifestyle. It'll take as much time or as little time as you have for it. Especially our game. We've designed this specifically to be fun for people who only have a few minutes a day or one day a week they can play it all. And also for people who, are retired now and have lots of spare time and want to play. Both both folks can be happy. The science fantasy setting means it's set somewhere in the future, but you can still it's gameplay fun above scientific accuracy, and it's allowed a little bit of whimsy. Um, the tone is techno-futuristic, optimistic. We want to have a positive feeling about the future. So less grim dark, less Star Wars, dark future, uh, and more George Jetsons or Star Trek, which is a little bit more optimistic usually. Although there's a new Star Trek series that just started that is edgier. We'll skip that one for now. I hope it does well, but it's a different thing. So it's a much more it's yeah. So that's our tone. You can do a lot of things in it. We draw ideas and things from Star Wars Galaxies, Ultima Online, but also from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. You'll see parts of that in the movement and the UI, although all the user experience that you see in front of you is unrefined and mostly just placeholder right now. If you look at the screen, light is a combination of flying a bit with the grav mesh, but mining at the same time, which I didn't think you could do. But wow, that's impressive. The grav mesh though uses the yellow bar at the bottom, which is stamina. So the character gets tired while they're flying and then has to rest a little bit. See that? Yeah. Whereas the mining tool uses its battery pack, and that will wear out and have to recharge a little bit too over time if light goes hog wild. Did I go too much detail?
I think one of the problems we always have is there's so much to tell that it's a little hard to convey what exactly Stars Reach is and what makes it different. You didn't really touch on the simulation, which is kind of a big deal of, you know,
Oh yeah.
our game, and the way
Most
Raph describes
games.
it is really great, right? Stars Reach is kind of how he envisioned MMOs would be in the future in a world before WoW came out, and you know, nowadays it's like I have a hard time trying to get my wife and I to start an MMO together and actually be able to play at the same time in the same place because we're in, you know, 15 hours of single player cutscenes. So this is really meant to be more of a multiplayer experience where you're dependent on each other, and you know, you can still play solo, but the aim is really to be part of a world, not part of a movie, right? Um, and one of the big things that Stars Reach does differently to achieve that is our terrain is fully dynamic and simulated. You can see Light is modifying, you know, digging through dirt and creating tunnels, but you'll see that there's sand in this desert, right? And the sand is going to flow into this hole because that's what sand should do. If you heat it up, the sand is going to turn into glass because that's what sand should do. And you know, a lot of people ask us like, well, that sounds really cool as a science experiment in the lab, right? But what do I get out of it? Why should I care? And you know, we've had really cool stories in pre-alpha already about like, hey, I saw these, you know, shards of glass in the desert, and I knew a fight had taken place here. You know, that happened to me in our internal test when Dave bumped up all the ball hogs with fire attacks. I looked around and I was like, oh man, there's a swarm of ball hogs just flying over, and I knew that because I saw the glass, right? People have people have gone, I need quartz to craft, but I don't really want to go around hunting for it. But I'm really clever and I can do some chemical reactions on this sand and chronophase it up and then melt it and make like a little desert kiln to create quartz. And I was like, how did you guys figure that out? I didn't know that. So it's really about creating these emergent behaviors and, you know, feeding them into the gameplay and into the economic loops. And I don't think you can get that anywhere else.
Yeah, the entire world that you're seeing them running around in most games, that's designed ahead of time, crafted, set up, and you can play for a while, but it will eventually return back to the original state of the design after you're done playing there. Not in this game. This game, it's a living simulation powered on the cloud that is running whether you're here or not. And it's reacting to things that creatures do, the plants do, players do, all of them. And it's also reacting just to erosion and time passage. So it's going to be changing. If you dig a hole and leave, and someone else comes along the next day, they're going to see that hole. Oops, the light's going to get eaten by creatures in a minute if not careful. Let's see here. Wow, we're blowing past goals here. Ooh, all right. Don't look at that. Okay, more questions. Um, let's see here. What there is so far feels great. Thank you, Drawl. And it's very cool. Thank you. How much will the property passes cost after release? I think the value we have in our minds is $10 a month as a like a base general gut. There will be slightly more expensive versions, I would think, that have bells and whistles, but and then there'll be, we're trying to make everybody happy. with whatever they see and whatever they want. We showed our rewards last Saturday in a fireside chat, and we got some good responses to it. Some good advice and feedback and suggestions to it. So some of them came in the meeting, some of them came privately afterwards in messages. All good, thank you. And we sat down and went through all of them and put as much as we could into the final levels before we put them out just about 18 minutes ago. Yeah, so it's a whirlwind day here. Trust me. Uh, let's see what else. I have to look to the other screen to figure out to see the question. So sorry about that.
There's some questions about stretch goals and roadmaps, and people are always curious about that during a Kickstarter.
We have a list of stretch goals. We were told to only put them up one at a time as we pass numbers. We're following those rules. I mean, if you PM me, I could sneak them to you when I'm not in the middle of screening, but we got some exciting things to go up on there. Let's see. Now there's a good comment in there from Raymond Barber Jr. Some of the things you see in the rewards will come out as soon as the campaign ends, such as your access to the game will be more or less immediate, as fast as we can do it. If we get too much response, we'll have to ramp up more servers first before we can let people in, which is, it's not a really long process, but it is work, and actual humans have to do it. It's not, oh dear, I'm sorry, Light. Light got eaten by alligators. Oh dear, that's not good. Okay, don't look. So there's work to do, but then others of them, cosmetic items and things like a grav sled, which I will explain to you, those won't get delivered until the game is live or later on. A grav sled, first I have to tell you why a grav sled. You can move around in the galaxy in various ways, and some of them are kind of fast. Like if you want to play with your friend who's on the other side of the galaxy, we have a way to use what do you call that thing the Light's standing next to?
The relife station?
We can use the relife station to temporarily instantiate a new body for you on your friend's planet, so you can go and play with. You only get the stuff that's on your belt pack and in your bag with you. You don't get cargo. You can't take stuff with you. You only have a limited amount of your stuff. So you can't move goods across the galaxy that way. Players can move fast. Goods always move slow. So you need a way to move things around. And one of the ways that we can do that is with a grav sled. You pull it behind you, and it holds all your stuff for you. I love it. There will be grav sleds can be crafted. You can craft it in one of multiple ways. You can just craft it regular, and that's probably the lowest amount of effort and the most predictable outcome. Or you could craft it with artisan crafting, spend some points, maybe use some upgraded input materials, roll the dice, and you might get an exceptional set of statistics for your grav sled. Maybe it moves faster. Maybe it carries more stuff. Maybe it uses less fuel or something like that. Maybe you're spending more effort in making it prettier, and you can put your branding on it so that people know that's a Carneros brand, you know, grav sled. I remember when I lived in Beijing in the 80s, the most popular brand of bicycle was called the Flying Pigeon. And my inner marketing person just loved that branding. Anyway, everyone aspires to be riding a flying pigeon, right? Anyway,
We so need a
that's
spaceship called the Flying Sky Shark.
yeah. You can brand it. There's also a third type of crafting we haven't talked about much, which is sort of automated factory style, so that you can crank out, you know, 24 grav sleds at the same time by filling enough stuff in and scaling up for, to equip your guild or your alts. No, I don't think we have alts like that. Sorry. Please delete that alts reference.
Rick's Eve brain is showing.
Yeah, sorry, I slipped into Eve mode for a second. Eve is insidious, you guys.
So what just happened on
Okay.
screen was Light found a pack of harmless little jackalopes, and they're usually pretty passive. They'll run away from you, and most people don't know this, but if you back them into a corner, they will actually fight back. But what Light did instead was shoot them, which really, really pissed off the entire pack, and they turned into velociraptors. Um, so yeah, we want to have very different creature behaviors like this, where you don't necessarily know what to expect when you see a bunny, right?
I just don't know why Light didn't die in that one, because that was a close.
Light knows what they're doing.
All right. Wow. We're very close to our pledge goal. I shouldn't look, but it's so compelling.
Yeah, I have it minimized. I can't look. But thank
Yeah.
you everyone for
Okay.
your support.
Yes. Yeah, we will have maker marks on our crafted items so you can build respect as a crafter. Absolutely. This is the way. What? Yeah,
So
Kickstarter is 30 days, and usually there's a few weeks of processing lead time. But yeah, 30 days. Go ahead.
just to catch up the new people watching again, we are in pre-alpha, so the way to define that sort of is before all the core systems are complete. But we have been in development for a long time, and we've gotten a lot of the high risk things out of the way, like the simulation you see is working. We can get dozens to hundreds of players per server, so we've been working a lot on optimization and getting things ready for scale. The gameplay systems are coming in very, very quickly. Like in the last 6 to 8 months since we announced, I think we've been adding a profession almost monthly, along with new zones and new major gameplay features. We have a bunch more in the pipeline coming soon, and yeah, I think a lot of people seem to assume that game development is linear, and they go, "Well, you got a lot to do if this is 5 years worth." And honestly, a lot of this is like 6 months worth. And a lot of that 5 years is getting all the pieces ready to be able to build fast, right? Also building a studio from scratch and, getting a team that can work at this pace. That's not instant, especially during a global pandemic, that takes time. So yeah, things are getting faster and faster, and I'm honestly really happy with the speed we're moving at right now.
So we can talk about the game, or we can interview Avi, or we can talk about the Kickstarter. All of those are options at the moment. Just for now, I'm going to talk to Avi. Yeah. So Avi, um, is this your first game you've worked on?
It is. So I actually lived in New Zealand before moving here like 5-ish years ago. And there's not a huge game industry in New Zealand. So, I was doing normal software things in the healthcare industry, and, I've been doing that for a while, like 8 years.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not a new programmer by any means, but yeah, for the games industry, there's basically like what, Bloons TD and Path of Exile out of New Zealand. And both are pretty successful, but at the time it wasn't really like, hey, I have a lot of companies that apply to there. Um, but yeah, like I've been gaming since I was 3 years old, and always knew I wanted to work on games eventually. Um, I made like a couple of little projects at home just to, share with my wife, and that was kind of it. But um, I think probably about four years ago now, I joined the Playable World's unofficial fan Discord, and I was really intrigued by this game they were building, and it really was ticking all my boxes, right? Um, I think the thing that really sold me was that Raph and the team were trying to solve the right problems. I think everyone has experience running out of content and waiting 6 months to 2 years for new, expansions to drop, and it's just an unsustainable problem in MMOs, right? You can't just keep churning out all this static single player content. So when I saw that someone was actually finally trying to tackle making dynamic content so that, you know, ongoing updates are cheaper and faster, and you can focus more on gameplay systems than just story, story, story. I was like, yes, that is what I wanted all this time. And I reached out and tried to apply for, I think I applied 3 times for different roles until I finally got an interview. Like I was just too late a couple times and they hired someone else. And um, I think I was lucky at that time because it's hard for studios who are small to get a lot of applicants. So I didn't have too many veteran game devs ahead of me, maybe. But anyway, they gave me the interview, and um, they liked me enough to keep me around. And 4 years later, I'm still here, working on some of
Yay.
the really cool stuff I wanted to work on, like combat and prediction, which we'll talk about later.
I I did what you did. I applied a couple times before I got in. Actually, I applied on the general no particular job thing and wrote up, I'll do anything type of email and sent. And exactly 1 year later, like within 2 days of 1 year later, um, I got poked about another option and applied, and sure enough, they offered me a job on a Sunday. I was a little surprised. On a Sunday, they offered me a job, but these folks work crazy hours sometimes. So your wife is a gamer too, right?
I met her in an MMO.
I heard that. Is there a fun
Yeah.
story? What MMO was it?
Okay, so this is gonna be more of a generational story, right? Like for when we were growing up, the MMO for everyone to play was MapleStory because it was one of the first big free to play titles, right? And when we were teenagers, that was just a lot more accessible. So it was MapleStory, and I know that's kind of a cliche, but hey, they had a marriage system in games, so they had that going. Um,
Did you do
yeah,
the
we
marriage
we
system in
both.
game too?
Oh yeah, totally. Why would you be dating
How
online and
sweet.
not get married in game? Um,
Oh,
so yeah, we were both, coming back in our college years after playing in high school, and all our friend groups were kind of detached, and we met through mutual friends. And yeah, we just got to talking on, like Skype and stuff. And this is before Discord was a thing. Um,
Trey, I
yeah,
totally know who you are, dude. I totally know who you are. And I had no idea you played MapleStory and that you got married in game. That is funny.
yeah, MapleStory was kind of huge, right? In in those
Yeah.
days. So my gaming background is a little different from sort of the old school MMO fans here, where it's really more around the free to play Korean MMOs, and um, that actually tied in really well because those games are very action heavy. They're very client predicted and things like that, where you kind of see the tab target games don't rely on that, and they kind of just go with the global cooldown. And playing from New Zealand, I could definitely feel what had a difference. The difference client prediction made, because that's what 200 milliseconds of ping. Um, so it's kind of come full circle for me, where it's like all those experiences have led to me working on these features in this game, and yeah, I think it's really great.
I love it. I love it. So what were you working on this week at Playable Worlds? Anything fun?
Actually, client prediction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay.
No
So,
wonder
so
it's
it's
on your mind.
people who don't know, I see a question. This leverages ECS. Yes, we do use ECS very heavily. Um, for those who don't know, client prediction is basically when the client tries to think ahead because there is a lag time in talking to the server and getting a response, right? Actually, Light, if you could show the E special on the drones, that's a really great demonstration of it. Um, but the idea is when you do an action, you hit a button, there's that lag time based on how far you are from the server. And what has to happen in an MMO is it's server authoritative. So you have to wait for that response to see a reaction to your action. And that doesn't feel good, right? It just feels laggy. So what a lot of games do, especially the more action-oriented ones, is teach the client how to sort of predict the future. And when the response from the server comes in, we just hope it lines up. Um, and usually it does. And in cases where it doesn't, it's a mispredict, and you kind of feel like a little rubber band desync. But usually it just feels snappier, right? So we've been working on that. I actually have a version of it working on my local machine right now, and it feels way, way, way better. Um, but there's a lot to do on the back end to get things working smoothly because our architecture, and Raf's talked about this quite a bit, is really reliant on a very fast server scripting loop. Um, we can hot reload a bunch of our gameplay scripts and have a lot of dynamic stuff that streams down to the client. And to train the client on how to do that kind of means taking a lot of that dynamic stuff and sort of like bringing it to the client in a way that doesn't, you know, clog your network pipes too much. So yeah, that's getting a little technical, but that's the kind of stuff I've been working on this week.
Well, if we didn't
Yeah.
want technical, we probably shouldn't have been interviewed with an engineer. Thank you. That's part of the fun. Most of the people on the forums on the Discord who interact with us all the time know that Avi's a big proponent of combat and melee combat and wanting to improve our combat. So yeah,
So what
everyone
you
is
just
so
saw
thankful for that.
on screen there with light, sorry to interrupt you, Rick. Um, that E special, which makes a bunch of orbs float around you. What you're seeing is before prediction, and you can see it lags behind you a little bit because that's where the server thinks you are. But our characters are client predicted, so your character is a little ahead of the server position, right? So on my machine with the client prediction stuff, that actually follows you accurately.
Nice. I can't wait to see. Okay,
Um,
I just want to update folks who are joining us. We have a Kickstarter campaign that just started 37 minutes ago. We've almost completed our goal of 200,000 US dollars. We're at 161,000 out of that 200,000. So that was very fast, a little over a half hour. But in the meantime, we're showing some gameplay from the game. Thank you, Light, for playing for us so we can sit and talk. We're interviewing Avi, one of our developers, one of our engineers. We got Thomas helping out on the stream, doing production and engineering so that we don't have to worry about pressing buttons. And we have elves in the background running around getting ready for the next stretch goal on the Kickstarter. Thank you to Nina, Magnus, and Dave, our elves, for that. And
just
we're
to answer a
taking
couple of
questions in
questions, and
Twitch chat. Yeah, go for it.
speaking
Help
of,
me see.
yeah, I just saw a couple of questions. They're saying, is there going to be a marriage system in Stars Reach? I hope so. Maybe not at launch, but I think that's the kind of thing that would fit a Sandbox's MMO. And we are trying to be very social and add a lot of social systems, so I think it's a fitting feature for us.
We have to poke
Someone
Dave
asked,
about that. Next time you guys
yeah,
see Dave, you can poke him too. Don't just rely on us. Oh, Light just turned that into a homestead, I think. Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
Some folks are asking us about what language is your backend written in. You can see the Unite talks that Raph did with Unity and with AWS, but to quickly go over that a little bit, we use Unity for our front end rendering with a lot of custom code on even the rendering side, because all this terrain is not what any engine is designed to do, right? All these dynamic, constantly changing meshes. It's a very different problem to what traditional games have to solve. Um, so that's pretty much completely custom. We're using their networking layer with a lot of customizations on top of that, because again, they're not really built for MMO scale, so we have to do a lot of performance tweaks and things like that. We do use Unity on the server end just to communicate with those layers, but then after that we have our own TypeScript layer to do gameplay scripts in and do that hot reloading really quickly. And then we have our simulation, which is in Rust, and we're looking at porting that to GPU code as well. So this is going to be very custom. And honestly, a lot of people who start at Playable Worlds, the first few months is just them onboarding for a really long time, because it's really overwhelming, right? If an engine existed to make this kind of game already, we wouldn't be here because it would already exist. Um, but yeah, there are a lot of technical challenges in making this sort of thing, and even for MMOs, this is very ambitious. So we've had to do a lot of custom work, and again, that's why it's not linear development. Like, a lot of the time from the past 5 years has been sunk into that sort of thing.
You mentioned the RAF presentation at Unite 2024 about work developing in Unity. And I think I found the right video and linked it into the Twitch stream there, hopefully.
Yeah, there's a question about, are we still planning on licensing the platform? I mean, maybe. Long term, that certainly is a goal, to go from a game with a large universe to a multiverse or a metaverse, or whatever people want to call it these days. Um, for the people who are fans of like Sword Art Online, a big plot point in that game was they basically released the code of that game, and a bunch of copy MMOs came out with that backend. I mean, that's sort of the same concept, right? And ideally, when we have things like event worlds and stuff where they don't impact the economy too much, it'll be a lot easier for us to go between very different experiences. But that's very, very far ahead, right? We're more focused on launching a great game right now, and yeah, that's really a direction that's, if we get there, great. If we don't, I'm happy as long as we make Stars Reach great.
Will there be sandworms? That would be the other game. Dune, what is it called? Yeah, that's coming out soon. Try that one. I have not seen a sandworm on our game yet.
We
But you
could
never
do
know.
sandworms, but the thing to get right is, if they eat sand, do we make them like poop it out or something, or do they just make giant holes everywhere? It's really more of a
Sandworms
question
don't
of,
eat sand. I guess they eat some of it. Let's
yeah.
see.
So it's really more of a, is it going to be clipping, or is it actually going to be tunneling? Like, it gets a little weird, and we don't want to make it too janky, right?
Animals
On
will
screen you can see
interact. Go ahead.
on screen you can see Light is actually burning down some trees, and not just the simulation, but our traditionally static objects are very dynamic too. And this is
Isn't that
thanks
how
to
you
that
make
scripting layer.
bananas foster?
Banana plaster?
Bananas foster. Isn't that how you make it? You're supposed to use a torch and flambe the bananas,
Oh,
etc., usually in a little brandy. But
sorry, I thought you were talking about the in-game recipe banana plaster, which is like a triple pun by Dave. Did you know it takes clay to make banana plaster, because it's plaster, and it's a band-aid because it's... Okay, sorry.
yeah,
He's very punny.
And cognac. Okay, thanks, Larrick. Brandy is for people who are less fancy.
People ask about melee combat and sword skills. Yeah, so the if you go into the skill tree, um, currently we only have one combat skill tree, and it's just called basic combat, and all of our tools are lumped in there. And like it, that is not what we're shipping with. Um, we're gonna have probably at least a dozen weapon types, and each of them is gonna have their own tree. And melee weapons are part of that. The reason we're not charging ahead and just making those right now is because of the backend upgrades we're doing on client prediction and things like that. Um, so yes, it's coming, but there are some things we want to get right first before just diving into it.
Okay, question. When the game goes live, Avi, what are you going to do in the game? What kinds of things do you want to do as part of your gameplay?
So the first thing I'm going to do when the game goes live is just take a deep breath and just walk around and watch what you guys are building. Like this has been a long journey and there's still a lot more to do. It'd be nice to just, you know, walk around and smell the roses. And even in pre-alpha, you guys are just so creative and amazing. Like I was just posting in Slack how someone was building these awesome like mosaics and dragons out of our current building tiles. I think they're in the chat actually. Um, but just the stuff you guys have been already doing is super creative, and I think I'm gonna need a breather to just take a step back. And after launch is still gonna be hectic. Yeah, there we go. Our architect is there. Um, Boba W. Um, but yeah, I would like to just be able to breathe in, smell the roses for a bit. But then after that, I'll be out on the frontier planets, doing as much combat content as I can. And once we add PvP, you might just find me there on a legit non-God mode account. I'm not gonna cheat, but yeah, I think it'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to a game where combat and the economy play together nicely. A lot of games, especially with PvP, they kind of segregate it into a separate little funnel. But okay, for those who don't know, PvP is planned to be in the game, not necessarily at launch, but it will always be opt-in. There are very deliberate reasons for us having loading screens between planets, and one of those is so that we can have these clear lines for rules, right? Like this world is PvP on, this world is PvP off. Kind of like going between a bunch of Minecraft servers where you can see the rules before you jump in. So if you see me out on a PvP world, you'll know this is a PvP world and I'm not going to just gank you, right? And
You don't believe in
the
ganking?
reason... No, I'm kind of more of a counter PvPer, so I like to gank the gankers.
Okay.
I played a lot of Black Desert, a lot of Guild Wars 2, a lot of these days I play League of Legends for my PvP fix, but yeah, I spend a lot of my time anti-ganking.
I'm in PvP fleets in EVE every day. Every day.
Yeah, Rick has some crazy EVE stories. We'll happily tell them to you over a glass of wine.
Yeah, or a bottle. If you are familiar with a story from the past of EVE Online called the T20 incident, please type an X in the stream chat. If you're familiar with the T20 incident, please type an X in the stream chat. Yeah.
There's a few.
Yes. That is not Avi. Avi is not made that way. That is not how he is as a person. He's completely trustworthy. You still have your piece of Steve. Wow. He's old school, and predates me a lot. That's impressive. I tip my hat. Okay. The best part of Star Wars Galaxies was being able to have large-scale world PvP with 100v100. Do you think something like this is going to be possible with what you're currently thinking PvP will look like in the future? Let me preface this by saying we're not really ready to talk about PvP, but with that caveat aside, Avi, what comes to mind?
So let's take it back a step to a purely technical perspective. If there's 200 players in a very close proximity, that's an n squared problem where every single one of these players is sending 199 packets that need to go to, well, you send one to the server and then 199 go to, every other player, but then every single one of them is sending a bunch of packets for 199 other players too. So the amount of traffic goes up like exponentially when players cluster together. And that's kind of the one big problem with really large scale PvP. You see a lot of, stuttering and desyncing and rubber banding. Um, the way a lot of games handle this is very, very aggressive, interest management. You don't replicate packets at a higher rate for people who are not very close to you or very, likely to be threatening right away. So, some rubber banding for someone 20 meters away is maybe okay. Someone right next to you, you want to get them instantly so you can actually fight back. But those large scale PvP games, and like I've played a bunch of them too, and they are fun. Um, but also you kind of lose some of the tactics and sort of the strategy around it at that point. I don't think we're aiming to actually target very large scale PvP, but I'm sure you guys will manage to do it anyway, right? And if that's the playstyle you guys want to do, sure, we'll have a look and see how you go, and we'll probably have to do some optimizations. And yeah, right, like Holy just mentioned that the real limitation will be the client, where yes, FPS gets limited if you're not culling, the visuals of the players. Like animators are very expensive, and if you have 200 animators running around um, without, some really aggressive optimization, then yeah, it's gonna feel really low FPS. Um, but just from a design perspective too, like most of the competitive PvP games out there are what, like 5v5, 10v10. And if you have so many players, it kind of devolves into chaos. So it's not something I expect us to really push content towards. I think we'd be more likely to push um, for smaller scale PvP. What I really like is sort of distributed objective based PvP, where you have maybe 100v100 but spread out over a larger map. So you don't have that chaos quite as much with like the two Zerg armies just like clashing in the middle, but rather something more like what Guild Wars 2 does with um, creating nodes on the map that you want to take, which people still manage to Zerg, and everyone's going to do that at some point. But um, yeah, I would rather encourage people to spread out a little bit and have a more high quality, lower quantity kind of experience. But that's just
I
my take.
also
Um,
I also want to point out that the kind of fight Avi's describing right now would not be would be on the fringes of the known galaxy. It wouldn't be in the middle where folks are uh, where folks who don't want to get involved in PvP are living.
unless your guild takes over a planet, sets up a colony there, and says, you know what, our rule set for this planet is going to include PvP. You could do that if you wanted to. But again, people will be notified as they enter.
Yeah, that's not a surprise you in the middle of the night type of thing. Uh, you're not going to find yourself unexpectedly in PvP territory. All right. Holy
Travel
cow.
between planets take a lot of time or be instantaneous. So our philosophy, I think Rick mentioned this already, is players fast, goods slow. If you're carrying a lot of, trade goods, you'll have to get lug them around manually, and there'll be skill trees around, making that more efficient. Um, I think people have already caught some of the profession names from our, trailer a little while ago where it said things like smuggler and criminal. Those are going to be more about hauling around, higher risk goods, and circumventing the servitors and their security scans. Um, so we don't really want you to just teleport around, you know, completely rendering those systems void, right? But we do want you to play with friends, and it just sucks when you jump in and you can't go and help out your newbie friend, right? Um, so if you want to play with a friend, you'll be able to teleport to a camp near them at one of the relife stations, as long as you don't bring trade goods with you. We're still going to be, ironing out the details of like, can you bring consumables? How many tools can you bring? The idea is probably just bring one loadout with you, and if you do get goods during that session, you'll have to do the reverse trade travel, right? You take it back to where your main base is. Um, but yeah,
Things will have different prices in different locations in the galaxy, depending on their proximity to resources or what's going on in game that has created a demand for various inputs. So there will be the opportunity to pick up cargo in places cheaper, and take it somewhere and sell it more expensive and take advantage of that difference. That's a valid lifestyle in this game, a valid profession. Just moving goods, logistics, maybe protecting the movement of such goods. There's some of it that happens on ground, some of it that happens above ground, etc. And there's also a category of goods that we call contraband because it is not within the rules allowed by the servitors robots that are the caretakers of the galaxy. So if you want to move contraband goods from one planet to another, and you don't want the servitors to stop you, then you take on smuggling uh, skills. Anyway,
a couple more questions, and I think this is a really good one from chat. What if I,
go
as
for
a PvE player, build my base on a PvE planet, and after some time, a PvP player or a guild takes over the planet and changes the rules? So we've had a lot of questions about griefing and anti-griefing mechanisms, and when we talk about this planetary government stuff, a lot of people bring this up. Like, what if someone is just going to ruin my fun while I'm asleep overnight? Um, the way we're planning it to be is a planet will have one government, and at the start, when it's unclaimed, there's going to be a bit of a race to establish a government, right? And this will be sort of a high investment goal for guilds. So that's sort of the political end game, is like, how do we establish, our network to get enough resources to create a government here very quickly. But once you've established a base, no one's going to take it over. That's it. You guys claim it. So it's really going
thank
to
you
be
for
up to you
stating that
guys
that
if you want to
clearly.
change it. Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Uh,
Oh, time out for a second, Avi. We're about $1,100 away from hitting our goal. Dear Lord,
wow.
I would look at it for a second. Wow.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Oh, we're now are more like $700 away. Ooh.
This is the
Okay.
first hour.
Yeah. I think I've had enough coffee at this point. Wow. Okay, let's take another
And it's
question.
met.
Oh,
Wow.
dear Lord. We hit our goal. We hit our goal in less than an hour. Holy cow. Say that again, Thomas. Yes, please. Per piacere. Okay. Wow. We're going to put the Kickstarter up on screen for a second for y'all. Thank that. I was talking to our engineer, Thomas, but I don't think you can hear him. I'm not actually just crazy yet. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Are you going to have to refresh it, Thomas? Oh, yours is in euros. That's why. Our stream engineer is doing this from somewhere in Italy, um, because why not? You know, If I could live in Italy and do this job, I would. Wow, you guys, this is exciting. Um, that means we're gonna have to put up stretch goals now, or I assume either someone did it or we're doing it now. Does anyone see where this first stretch goal is yet? And thank you for all the kind words. It's appreciated, you guys. I will
Thanks.
I
Doing
will
good.
ask the elves in the background. Okay, okay. Yeah, so there is a profession involved in just an activity and game involved in just taking goods from one place to another. You can acquire the goods yourself, or you can get them in contracts. I don't know what we're going to call those contracts, but if you're someone who wants something moved, you have the option of setting up a contract that anyone can pick up. They can take your goods from point A to point B, etc. Or they can acquire goods for you and bring them to you so you can continue your crafting without pause. There are a lot of things you can do this way. By the way, setting up such contracts is a great thing because you're creating content for the rest of the community. So thank you in advance for doing that. And interrupt us if you see a way. Oh wow, Malik, congratulations on becoming a traveler. If you see a way to see the first stretch goal, please go for it. Tell us about it because I don't see it yet. But I'm having to focus on the stream anyway. Yep, crafters, come see me. I'll get you what you need and what you don't think you need. That would be Raymond Barber Jr., although he may have a different name in game by the time we launch. Can the contract be broken and unscrupulous stuff steal stuff? A contract can be broken, absolutely, but you will have a deposit involved. Um, I can't remember what the term is called. Avi, do you remember?
It'll probably be an escrow.
Escrow, yeah. There's a value in escrow. So if you set up your contract with a reasonable escrow, then your backside is covered. Okay, we've got the Kickstarter back up on screen. Because I can see that Thomas has managed to VPN in or spoof it somewhere. So now we see it in dollars instead of euros. Um, or he teleported from Italy to America while we weren't watching, while running the stream.
That's a neat
Probably
trick.
not that. And then, but we still don't see a stretch goal yet. See if you can find one, Thomas.
Sounds like that might need
Okay, escrow,
to
yeah.
be pushed from our end.
We are fully funded, yes. Io non so.
I think it'll need to be posted. So I think they're putting up a thank you message or something right now. And probably stretch goals will come with that.
I know I wrote some. They have them somewhere. Um, CG77. I'm super surprised you only let 100 of the $75 early birds into this Kickstarter. I don't know how they pick the numbers for the early birds. Yeah, none of us have done a Kickstarter or have done it recently. So we don't really know what we're doing.
By the
We're
way, there is a
MMO
playtest starting right
specialists.
now.
Oh, yeah. If you're in the test, you can jump into the Discord and hear the devs talking while you're going, or you can skip that part. But you can log in right now. Absolutely. And there might be some other streams if this one gets boring. All right. And we'll at some point we'll uh, raid over to one of them.
There's a pretty good question in chat about name reservations and if there's a way to get that at a backing tier. So we're actually thinking of doing non-unique names, a little bit more like Discord. I think we feel comfortable that people have the same name in real life and can cope with it, and maybe MMO players can too. We've had, I think we have 3 Daves in our company right now. We've had 4 Brians at one point, and we were okay. Nothing fell apart. And as long as we make the UI show their unique ID, if you need to report a player or something like that, it should be fine. Discord handles it. There's plenty of precedents. Facebook handles it. So in that case, name reservation will be a little moot, right?
Yeah, it's still being discussed, but we are more concerned about guild name reservations. So that's a big deal to us. We want to make sure guilds at some point get an opportunity because you know, that's different, you know. But yeah, maybe there will be an opportunity for guild name reservations at some point. I don't know about players. It depends on what Avi just said about which way we go with the name. If we go with enforced unique names, then yes, there'll be something.
One of the cool things about being in pre-alpha and being very public about it at this stage is you guys can give us feedback, right? And we are listening to feedback all the time. Like literally in our patch notes, there are direct lines where it's like this changes straight up from someone's comment in Discord, and yeah, there is absolutely an opportunity to discuss this stuff as we build it.
Drell, yes, please. Okay, there's a question from Mr. Nasser asking about what the property ownership thing is. Avi, do you want to describe property passes?
Sure. So, I mean, I think we've all seen with free-to-play games that people who can make too much of a permanent mark with a bunch of free-to-play accounts opens up a big vulnerability to bots and other malicious actors. So with what Light is doing right now with the homestead, um, in the current build, that's related to your skills in your skill trees on how many you can have at one time. We're not going to gate each individual homestead by a property pass. It's just going to be you have the permission to create homesteads at all, and then after that, it's going to be based on your game progression. You're still going to have to pay the resource costs in game to build these pieces and build the homesteads themselves. But really, it's more to make sure we're not just burning money on server costs for people who are building a bunch of free homesteads, everywhere, and also to counteract bots a little bit.
All right. Still people commenting about names and name reservations and how important they are to. People also asking about how often the playtests are running and will run. When we decided to do the Kickstarter, we shortened the average length of a test and ran a bunch more of them. We've been running tests twice a day, most days lately, and sometimes even more than that. And I think trying to get people a chance to taste it, the game, try it once before the Kickstarter actually started. We're still trying to get people going through. We have a lot of people who signed up that they want to. There will be, we'll be able to run more tests when the Kickstarter funds at the end, because then we'll be able to afford more servers and more server time and more cloud computing time to run the underlying simulation that is the setting for this game. So yeah, there will be more coming up. Now, this next phase of testing after the Kickstarter funds is still going to be pre-alpha testing. There will be wipes. There will be occasionally crashes, things like that. It won't be full normal game yet. A little bit later in 2025, we'll go into early access. When that happens, people who got access to the game through Kickstarter at the $30 level or up, for example, these people will still have access to the game during the early access phase too. It will continue. We expect there to be fewer wipes and once the early access has started, but there still could be the occasional. Am I saying that right, Avi?
Yeah.
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 And
Pretty much.
then once we go launch, we don't expect any wipes. Wipes suck.
Especially for a game like this where it's about a persistent economy, right? We're definitely going to need to start having longer windows where we can test some of those interactions. But yes, we're going to have to wait. We're changing things too fast
Yeah.
and too often.
For almost the entire for the most part in this game, if you buy something in the game, another player crafted it or collected it or refined it or harvested it. There's no NPC selling stuff to you type of situation going on. There's a very, very, very small number of things that just can be discovered in the game and are transferable. And there's also the possibility that people could buy things in the store, in the microtransaction store, and then take it and sell it or trade it or gift it to other players inside the game. Those things are tradable. But for the most part, anything you buy in a store was made or crafted or something by another player. That's the economy part. Borrowed some ideas from EVE Online, and maybe even did it a bit better because there are NPCs that sell you stuff in EVE. It's just not very much. It's a tiny percentage of all the transactions that happen, but there'll be even less of that in Stars Reach. Weapon and gear decay a thing. Make crafting more awesome. Yes, if you use your weapon or gear, it will slowly wear out over time. If you want to, at some point, it will stop being functional. You can take it to a crafter with sufficient skill, and they can repair it if they have the original ingredients around. If you used, for example, let's say you built a grav sled, and for the metal in the grav sled, you used iron. And the iron, this is just a hypothetical. And let's say your grav sled iron was regular grav sled iron. Well, then any iron will work for repair. But if you used a special version of high stats iron discovered on Miller's World, then you need to use Miller's World iron to repair your grav sled. And if it has all been mined out and you can't get any more, then your repair technician can't repair it. And you can't repair it with a different material. What you'll need to do at that point is just save that in your house or something. Remember it fondly as your favorite old grav sled and build another one. I hope I answered your question. That was for Pooh SLZA. hopefully love it. Yeah, Pooh loves it. Great, great. One of the
One thing you didn't
options.
mention as well about crafting is to level up your crafting skill tree, it needs to be by other players using your crafted items. And that's another example of like us trying to make more social mechanics in the gameplay, where even if you're not necessarily playing with someone directly, asynchronously, you are contributing to the larger economy. And um, yeah, like you're not just crafting 1,000 wrenches to level up your skill tree, you're actually trying to make something useful.
Yeah, why not
And
have a relationship with your favorite craftsperson?
yeah,
You're giving them XP. In fact, you're giving them the kind of XP that they need for crafting. That's crafting XP. That's awesome for them. There's a This is a wonderful heuristic if you're in a guild together, but it's still wonderful even if you're not. Just a little wrinkle I want you to think of. When you take that grav sled out and use it and go from point A to point B, you're helping someone else. And thank you in advance.
one of the things people ask is, well, how are you going to stop people from cornering the market, right? And I love how everyone is so quick to jump to the griefing cases immediately before seeing the feature. Um, but it's a thing people are wary about from past experiences, and we get it. Like Star Wars Galaxies did have those scenarios where people just had an empire cornering a specific item's market. Um, so one of the things that is sort of a countermeasure to that is you won't be able to craft everything, even as a master crafter. You're going to have certain recipes that are, you know, in practice, or like you're locked to a limit of the number of recipes you can keep in memory at one time. Similar to how the skill tree system is going to work too, where you can only have a certain number of active skills. So you can't be a master chef and a master artisan, crafter, or a master, PvP duelist or whatever, right? Um, so those limits make it so that new players can create some of the intermediate items that the veteran crafters are going to need, and that way there's sort of this constant like feedback loop.
I want to say thank you to Blimpy in chat who found us our stretch goal. Apparently, I don't see it yet, but apparently our first stretch goal is that at the $350,000 level. So we've got a ways to go still, another 125,000 plus. But does Blimpy, does it show what the reward is for reaching that stretch goal? And then let's see what else is in there. Brit Wolf says the crafting system of Star Wars Galaxies was something I absolutely loved. Yeah, if you didn't play Star Wars Galaxies, you might not know that this crafting system we're describing to you is primarily based on Star Wars Galaxies system, just brought up to a little bit more modern level. And then there are, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Avi, I assume you have 100% end-to-end tracking of all single unique objects. Everything quantized so that if duping occurs, you can remove them from the economy, blah, blah, blah. So far, we don't have any super unique items yet, but we will have.
But every item is a unique um, entry in our database,
Nice.
and yeah, that's kind of just how our architecture is. So
And
we have
Blimpy
that for
says the
free, so it's
goal
really
is unique and doesn't say what it is. It's just above key features. Okay, okay.
yeah. If you go to the Kickstarter page, it does have an update there with a thank you message, um, and there is a stretch
Uh,
goal section, but it is TBA.
I'm going to pretend I had 2 glasses of Cabernet at this hour and just leak a little something to you. Alrighty, don't tell anybody this. But the first stretch goal, we're adding an additional species that you can play, a playable species. to the list with some interesting characteristics. All right.
I think that got some attention.
Oh, they like it. Okay. Yay. Yay. Okay. Ozio, what couldn't you believe when you read?
I think it was about the New World anecdote, about the unique
Oh,
gems.
yeah. Oh, yeah. The New World. Yeah. Hey, they'd never made an MMO before. You know, that this wasn't their. I mean, I'm sure someone on the team had done. They should have known, but primarily that team wasn't known for that. Most of us over here are like hardcore MMO addicts, specialists.
I haven't
I mean,
built
I've
any
worked
MMOs, but I probably have like 30,000 hours in MMOs.
exactly. I did regular games up until Meridian 59, and then that changed my life. That rocked me. Um, I at one point I was maxed out on PTO at my company, and I took a week off from work and just stayed home and played Meridian 59 for a week. This is before the word staycation was invented. This is a long time ago. The game wasn't even live yet. Wasn't even launched yet. It was still in alpha, and I did that. Freaking changed my world. After that, I mean, I still had to sometimes do marketing on games that were not MMOs, but I always chose them after that if I could.
What new professions or skills can we expect to be added to what we currently have in pre-alpha? There was a pretty good list in one of our trailers, and it kind of just flashed by for a second, and a lot of people caught it and took notes. I think there's actually a player wiki that lists it. Let me see, Stars Reached Out Wiki, I think is what it's called. Um, but definitely we're moving towards a few more of the economic professions like crafting is going to be separated out to its own tree soon. Farming is coming soon. We're still working on the combat trees, and every weapon type is going to have its own profession. Um, Entertainment is a big one for Star Wars Galaxies fans, and that's going to be its own skill tree. Currently in game, you do accumulate wounds and fatigue as you play and use your stats. So the more damage you take over time, eventually you'll pick up wounds and your max health will go down. You use your focus and stamina. Eventually they'll also go down as you get fatigued. And you need to take a break with some entertainers and hang out in a town. And currently the only way to do that is with dance emotes right now. And you can see that if a player dances, they'll have this little disco ball effect thing above them, and people around them will restore some of their wounds. There'll be more ways to do that too with that entertainment profession. Yeah, there's lots to come.
And I can't remember who in chat suggested we stick in some more early birds, but I think the elves are working on that too as we speak. Maybe they won't be quite as good as the original early birds, but still, a discount is a discount. What else is going on here? Oh, Avi, check your Slack messages. I suggested something. Um, uh, the question was about um, additional uh, professions that maybe we haven't talked about yet. And here's one that maybe Avi can talk about for a second.
Right. So this is actually a pretty core system, right? How do we discover new planets? And there's definitely a player motivation of exploration that we want to hone in on. There are going to be people who want to explore on the ground and walk around Breath of the Wild style, but there are also going to be people who want to map out space and, you know, figure out the star chart. And because of how our planets are, again, divided very deliberately, the connections between them can change. Wormholes that connect um, Gaiamar and Zoraxa to the same space zone that can shift around, right? And we might spin inactive zones down, have some changes occur to them over time, and spin them back up and have them pop up somewhere else connected to a different set of wormholes. So there will be a profession related to, uncovering hidden wormholes and figuring out these charts. Same way for the people on the ground, one of the things actually in the pre-alpha already is the surveying skill tree, and that's more about mapping the ground zones. You don't start with a mini map; you're going to have to make it, and um, you're going to be able to sell it, right? Like map data for the current planet and its state. And because the terrain changes all the time, that'll naturally go obsolete over time too. So it's kind of like a built-in durability mechanic for maps. You don't just do a one and done, deal of let me buy a map for this planet and I'm done with that. You're gonna have to keep updating that map data, which means there's an economic loop for explorers to also just, do the thing they love and make a living off of it. And that's kind of our philosophy, like all over the place, right? You should be able to make a living in Stars Reach doing the thing you love.
Yay. I got a few more questions here. One asks specifically about limitations on names. For example, could a name be as short as 3 characters? SAM, Sam. Do we know what the rules will be on such things yet?
There are placeholder rules in the backend that I wrote like 4 years ago. But no, that's totally up for discussion. Hey, put your feedback in Discord and, we'll listen to it.
Amen. Okay, here's another one. These Raph poked me with a few, so here, hang in there with me. For the plenipotentiary tier, it says you can buy a planet, but, quote, maintaining a planet requires an active population, end quote. What's that mean in terms of gameplay or activity required? Well, in the game, planets can be abandoned. Wormholes can collapse, and the maps shift over time. You can get a planet and skip the claim process, but you still have to be active enough to keep it. Do you know, Avi, can you contribute any more color to that answer?
This is, very much in flux. There are vague designs around this, but it's really going to be something we need to dive into in depth soon and
And test.
nail down with the community.
Yeah,
But there is just a physical limitation of like server hardware costs money to run, right? We can't just keep servers up forever if no one's going to them. That makes no sense. Um, but we can pack away planets that are inactive and bring them back. So there is that notion, right? How it affects the Kickstarter and the plenipotentiary tiers. I don't know. You probably know more about that than me. Um, but
okay.
we'll do our best to make sure that everyone gets to keep access to what they paid for. Like that, we're not here to like rob you guys. That's nuts.
Okay, here's another question. And this is actually, we dealt with this earlier today in chat where someone said, what's our pricing philosophy on property passes? But here's a little bit more complex version of the question. How do the land tier benefits work for the players? It seems like they cost around $40 or $60 a month, which seems like a lot. But are there advantages to having that land as a tier benefit? Okay, actually, it was, are there extra advantages to having that land as a tier benefit? So the answer is no, no. It's more like $10 a month is what we're picturing in our minds right now, especially once we're live. These passes are also getting a first look at new items in the microtransaction shop. There are awards of unique items from time to time. There are event passes from time to time, and a few other more, maybe some temporary visual effects you can turn on and things like that we have in mind for these passes. But the least expensive tier should be close to $10 a month, type of thing. Now, we also haven't tried them all out. We haven't run the servers at capacity. We haven't seen what players' appetites are for what they put on these in these cities. We have a lot to learn yet. We don't quite know how much we're cranking up our cloud computing costs with what we're doing. So, there's an opportunity here to learn as we go. I'll come back to some of those questions in chat in a second. Here's another one. No, I'm going to skip that one and come back to it. I'm going to go to the chat instead. Will you have the ability to learn anything you want, or will you be limited to a number of points to put into skills? Yes and no. It's more complicated than that. You can learn anything you want to, absolutely anything. You have to start at the base level and work your way up in each tree, but you can learn anything. However, at some point, you will use up all of your capacity to learn, and you'll have to forget certain things temporarily. It's actually go out of practice with them to keep training in other things. So you'll need to pick what skills are your active ones later. And there's a reason for it, and I'll explain it at the end. But if later you decide, okay, look, I'm tired of cooking, I want to get more fishing skills, I'm gonna let the cooking go inactive so I can keep training the fishing. If you change your mind later and say, you know what, I've fished enough and my lake is all out of salmon, so I'm going to go back to cooking. You can change back, and then you don't have to relearn the cooking. You just have to get back in practice, which is a lower bar, and then you could do that. Now you can't switch all the time. You will need to you'll need to have a cooldown on the switching. I think it's like 1 week or something as the proposal, but we haven't tested it. But this is so that players have some interdependency with each other. We want players to work together. We want to reward social gameplay. We don't want everyone to be a unique island floating by themselves in a massively single player game. That's not our vision for this game. I hope I answered that question, Master Elis. Okay,
Someone asked
what else?
about stretch goals and whether or not they're committed to being launch or post-launch, and they're specifically concerned about, scope creep. And I think our answer to that is we're very comfortable pushing things to post-launch if it's going to delay the game, right? Like, we want you guys to be in Stars Reach and playing, and yeah, if we need to delay a feature, we'll delay it.
Yeah, because this new species that I didn't tell you about, because I would never leak anything like that, and I haven't been drinking. This we don't need it to launch the game. I mean, we have enough species we can just launch if we want to. So no, we wouldn't do that.
Oh, speaking of species, one of the planned professions I think was around being a geneticist and helping other players change their species, or their physical appearance. So you wouldn't have to be worried about picking a species at launch and then a new one coming in later on. You would just be able to change it, and it would be an economic loop too, which is kind of cool. I think hairstylists are also planned, right?
Okay, and let's see. From what I've gathered, they already have a roadmap for the next few years. I don't know about few years. I have not seen a multi-years roadmap. I haven't seen a roadmap that goes much past 2026. Have you? Well, we do have something, and we will be posting some things. There's a little bit in this Kickstarter document down toward. Um, Let me see where that is. After the
Yeah.
Kickstarter, click on after the Kickstarter.
At this point, we've kind of solved the largest unknowns, so our timeline is a lot more predictable. Of course, there are things that are going to come up, and certain things might get delayed a little bit, but that's just like normal life. It's not it's not like we're suddenly going to have features that we don't expect. And from this point on, I think is very much, we know how to solve these things. It's a matter of time to just do the work.
Also, scroll down to below where it says join the community. There's a section, it's above the section where it has all the game logos for previous games we've worked on. Nina, if you're listening, Magnus, if you're listening, thank you for including my games in there too. Thank you. That's heartwarming to see. But there's a little bit of roadmap information in there and more coming. Once we do this, we're now committed to sharing a roadmap with y'all. If anyone is coming to Stars Reach for the first time, I think the best primer here is posted by Raf on February 5th. Yeah, there's that link in chat. Thank you very much. The ecosystem sort of does it on its own if left to its own devices. Yeah, okay. The graphics and building reminds me of Landmark. Yes. Um, Dave Georgeson and I both worked on Landmark, and so did Rod. So yeah, it definitely has some of that feeling, and there are things that we borrowed from that. Thank you.
I will
Well
say though
spotted.
that a lot of the design was actually in place even before Dave was on the team. Um, so while there is definitely some, landmark inspiration from him, um, I think it's just a natural evolution of what both he and Raph believe MMOs should move towards. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shared spirit, but it's not really like, hey, it's because Landmark is that rooted in our DNA. I think it's more just that's the natural progression of things.
As
Art
someone who
style, I
did some
think.
play
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Stone Legion, who streams this sometimes, I've seen that. As someone who did some playtests, the biggest thing is the base game feels amazing and solid. Oh, thank you. There will be changes, especially quality of life, but it's really amazing. The thing I've noticed and seen already is where they add new features. It's almost like module style. Boom, all of a sudden they're in. And I think the biggest part of it's not like some games where you have to wait several months just for a small feature. Thank you. Um, that's partly based on our architecture and partly based on folks building systems and hustling in the background and turning them on as we're ready to test them, et cetera. Avi can probably speak to that better.
Yeah, so one of the nice things about not making a very linear game and a game that's based more on horizontal progression is that we can do things a lot more modularly, right? We're kind of like, here's the current feature set, and we're bolting them onto the side, not on top, right? And that's kind of how we envision live ops to be too when we're post launch. Is we'll just keep churning out more professions and stuff, and you get more gameplay systems that just drop in and sort of seamlessly just add to the game. We can add to our world generation, and suddenly new types of planets start spinning up. And we don't have to feel like, oh, we have to go back and update all the old zones. No, they're just new, different types of zones, right? So it's really nice to have that sort of architecture. And that's kind of what I meant with like, this is solving the right problems in a more sustainable way, right? We're creating things that are designed to be updated for like a decade plus. Um, yeah. I think I saw a question about permanent planets with large NPC cities and stuff. Is everything intended to be player made? Currently, everything is intended to be player made, but the nice thing about doing things dynamically is that once you've solved that, static stuff is really easy. It's the dynamic stuff without changes. So, if we wanted to make NPCs and, static cities, we already can, right? We just have to make essentially a really big blueprint for a homestead that's just larger. And we probably will do special event planet types, we've talked about maybe like we'll pull up an arena planet or like a football match kind of planet, right? Or who knows, like maybe there'll be like a fully ice skating field and you're playing Rocket League on ice, right? Like we're gonna experiment with these sort of like fun event zones, and those will probably be static because you don't want to mess with an arena or like a football field, right? And maybe some of them will be dynamic. Um, I remember I played Lost Ark at launch, and they had kind of a similar idea, except with static planets and stuff, right? Or well, they had islands, not planets. And there was one island where you could observe a bunch of pandas, and then you turn into a panda, and the primary activity there was you roll around as a panda, and it was just nonsense fun, and it was really silly, but it was great, And adding these sort of like one-off content islands is going to be much easier with this sort of architecture.
Nice answer. Thank you. And thank you for asking that question. Kyle RN58. Yeah, thank you. Here's another question that came in. Now that the Kickstarter is a proven success, what advice would you give other MMO / virtual world developers on crowdfunding their own projects? Did not expect this. Dear Lord, this has only been up for an hour and whatever, hour and 40 minutes. But here's the answer. Have most of your game done first. So you can let people play and build their confidence that there's something actually there. If your game isn't good, it won't go well, of course. But if the game is solid, even in early stages, then you're providing proof that you're worth backing. Thank you to Raf for putting that together. I don't know that there are any game devs in the chat, but maybe. All right, let's take another question. Quidditch style sport, but suiting for this game, like with grav sleds and stuff. One of the magic things about this game and how the sandbox works is we expect players to come up with cool stuff on their own. Players will invent sports and activities and things that we hadn't thought of, and this is a good thing and part of the magic, and we don't want to discourage that at all. But we don't have any secret sports in our back pocket that I know of.
We actually do.
Oh, okay.
The reflection shields, they bounce your projectiles back. And
Oh,
right now, they have a pretty low durability so that, they turn off pretty quickly, and we don't have PvP on. But when I was making them, I was like, I can totally see people just getting really high durability, low power reflection shields and just playing like tennis with their shields.
nice. Okay, Master Elas is asking a follow up on the skills question. How many maxed out skill lines are planned for? Oh, geez, tons. I like having options to play. I had one of each crafter type maxed out in Star Wars Galaxies. Sometimes it was hard to find the crafters I needed. Um, there are a lot of skill trees already planned. Like I've seen a ginormous chart thing, but um, after you've played this game long enough, your delay, if you can't craft what you want to, but you've got all the skills, if you can't find a crafter you want, and you've got all the skills, your delay is whatever the cooldown is, a week or something to flip it yourself. But yeah, you have an advantage. The more people you know, the more friends you've made, the better your reputation is in game. The easier it's going to be to find the resources you need and the help you need. Keep in mind, this game is one logical server. There's no shards. So we're all playing the same game together. We may be distributed across planets, but we're all playing the same game together. This has ramifications for your reputation. If you burn your reputation in game the first month you play, you've pretty much screwed yourself. So think about that when you choose how you're going to play this game. Don't get messy drunk and do things you'll regret in the morning, because your reputation is going to be really hard to repair later once you've set a bad impression with everyone. And no, you can't just transfer shards and change your name and escape your reputation. No. This game is partly about the choices you make have ramifications. So that's part of the design of the game.
We've got a question about, will there be camps in this game? Like talking about boss spawns. So there currently are boss spawns in the current build, and they do respawn kind of like a camp, but we're changing that very soon, because with dynamic terrain, obviously the place where it spawns might not exist tomorrow. There might be a big crater there or a big lake there, right? So this, I don't know if this counts as a leak, but there already is some work in progress to make slightly more dynamic. We call them points of interest or POIs, but it's going to be sort of the framework for how dynamic zone-wide sort of events happen. And you'll get a preview of that pretty soon. And I'm talking a playable preview, not like an article. It'll be in-game very soon.
If a survey point is embedded, it should reposition upwards in a few seconds. If that isn't working, it's a bug. Feel free. Okay, yeah.
That was my response, yeah.
All right, thank you. Oh yeah, Obby. Are there plans to overhaul the UI? Yeah. This is good enough UI for pre-alpha testing, but it's not good enough UI for a polished game. So yes. How varied will character customization be? Well, that's a good question, because we have licensed a piece of technology for that purpose. We wanted to be able to have really, really good customer customization of the player characters. So there's a company called Didimo, and they make a piece of software called, do you remember what the software is called? Everyone just calls it
Populate.
Didimo. Populate, with a numeral 8 as part of the spelling. Populate is the tech we've licensed from Dynamo to achieve really, really robust customization, and it cut a chunk of time. This game will launch sooner because we licensed Populate from Dynamo, and will give us the rich customization we want. We have not put that into the game interface yet for you to try. Instead, we've got a little thing going on. Every time light goes through a game portal, like goes to space or comes back on a different planet or something, the characters' visuals are going to shift, because we're just testing some of the Didimo Populate tech in the background without providing the UI. It's doing that for a reason. Oh, now light is sneaking up on a node. Good luck, light. Anyway, yeah, so it will be. Is there some compendium of these emote placards over the mods? Let me go into that for a little more. That is the stub on a more sophisticated system than you know. There will be one profession then and skill tree that we haven't shown you yet involves learning how to speak to alien species. And if you train that, you will be able to get more data on those little placards than, yeah, xenolinguistics, that's correct, Yeshis. You'll get more information than just the emotional state cartoon visual that you see there. And it could go all the way to like conversation and words for some of those people. Now we haven't tested it yet, etc. But there's a lot more to that system than has been revealed so far, and it's also still pre-testing. Woot, I would also like a HUD item to show experience trees and how far along I am on that experience. Yeah, yeah. Not there yet. Okay. Thank you for your support, Corby. Thank you. Yeah, speaking to aliens, I don't know if they're going to say anything useful, but you know, you'll be able to speak to them.
Well, it's less about talking to them and more about understanding them and their motivations, right? One of the things we just recently discussed is it would be really cool if we could see their attacks telegraphed by text, or kind of like Final Fantasy style, right? And if you understand the creatures better, you might be able to see those telegraphs sooner and be able to respond to their attacks, which is pretty cool, I think.
Okay, there was a question that we missed earlier in Discord. Thank you, Thomas. And the question was, do you know what the rules are for the nebula tier planets in terms of it going inactive? My concern is that my planet will get deleted if I go missing in action for a month, or I forget to check a box with planet ownership and it just gets stripped to nothing. Lol. Will they sort of be always available in some manner, even if it requires reactivating because it goes dormant? Okay, let's jump into that for a second. First of all, you don't want to try to hold the whole planet all by yourself as a solo individual. You're gonna want some friends to help you, a guild, something. Hire minions, do something, but you can't just do it by yourself. But that said, we firmly believe in you being able to go take a vacation, take a cruise, come back to the game, still be able to play, etc. We're going to design for that possibility. You're not shackled to this for life once you do it. No, 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 no. But we'll make it clear what the rules are around it, and then we'll have a testing cycle that goes through that too. So don't worry about it. And if you have suggestions, we're very, very open to it. You can PM Avi or me, on Discord. You can PM Raf on Discord, or Dave Georgeson. Give them your thoughts on what the rules should be on this, or send an email to support@playableworlds.com. And a group of us will see what you have to say. We'd very much like to hear them. And it could be as simple as I want to be able to take a month in the south of France every year and not lose my planet. Is that not an aspirational goal? Absolutely. I would like to do that. Yes, that is an old name, Suki. Yes. I just remember having beta neutral faction as a Tenarian druid. The animals would help me in duels. They removed that system. I miss it still. I wanted the planet to know my rep and care about it. There will be reputation systems in this game. It won't be Tenarian druid, but there will be some system. France has internet. Smarty boots. If you're having a really good time, you're not looking at your phone every 5 minutes. Anyway. All right. All right. We need to start winding down, if we're honest, because there are 4 of us working on this stream, that including the gameplay and the engineer behind the scenes, and we all have a stand-up coming in 6 minutes. So let's start to wind down. I just looked at the Kickstarter, and we're at 229,000. This is, you guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're gonna, I'm gonna have some PR work to do as soon as we hang up. I'll tell some of the media that we hit our goal and things like that. Avi, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just want to say
Light?
thank you guys so much. This has been really fun, and honestly, 2 hours have flown by. I was a little nervous coming into this, but no, this was awesome. And seeing all the support on Kickstarter is also really encouraging. Tell the industry you want this game. I mean, you guys have told the industry you want this game.
And you guys, at this point in our process, the first 48 hours of the Kickstarter campaign, $1 pledges mean a lot. They create momentum. They help. It's not a lot to risk, and it actually does a lot. In late next week, it won't do much. That a $1 pledge doesn't do much next week. But right now, in the first 48 hours, it does. It helps create momentum. And so keep that in mind. And it's appreciated. Yeah, thank you. Yoshi's is right. Bookmark to show your interest. It's huge. Absolutely. Thomas Light, if either of you want to chime in, you're welcome to. I don't even know if Thomas can say something and be heard. But again, thank you for your support on doing. And thank you to the team of elves in the background running around doing stuff while Avi and Light and Thomas and I play around streaming instead of working. Next stream is at 1 p.m. So, just in a few hours. Oh, let's see who's playing Stars Reach at the moment. Is there someone that we can raid over to?
Checking.
Thomas, hopefully you know how to do a raid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I bet the mood in the stand-up this morning is going to be very positive. Everyone's tickled pink in the background. Oh, I think Old Man Observer is running a stream right now. Let's go jump on him.
Trying to find the
Thank
channel
you,
name.
Nephilim.
It's not appearing.
It's Old Man Observer, all one word.
Mm-hmm.
You might not be on Twitch.
There's maybe not. Oh, hang on. Shoot, people. Tomate kudasai.
Oh, nope, he's offline right now, is all.
Okay.
Oh, I just opened up Discord and there's like 9 million PMs from people. Oh, okay. I'll deal with that later. Aw. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Everyone said nice things. Thank you. Oh, Raph got asked about planet permanence on Discord. All planets in the game can be lost if they are abandoned. That is true of these as well. But keeping them up is basically making sure they get visited regularly. Inactivity means like nobody goes there for an extended period of time. We have not set specific lengths of time and activity yet. So one thing you could do is set up contracts for people to come and go and bring, shipments of brandy or lemon cakes and things like that, just so you have enough stuff on your planet and there's people coming and going. How's that? Space buttons. There will be recipes for all kinds of things, once we really get going on the cook.
Someone's asking about when do we get to log in and play. There is a playtest running right now if you already have a key, but I think for the early access sales from the Kickstarter, that's going to happen after the Kickstarter campaign ends.
Which is a 30-day cycle. All right, if we can't find anyone to raid Playing Stars Reach at the moment.
So there's one streamer attack of opportunity.
Go for it. All right, stand by. We're going to surprise someone whose stream I've never seen before. Let's see what we could do.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
When we get over there, everyone say hi in chat so we can surprise them. Scare them. I like it when they get scared. Are we still on camera and on audio and stuff? Okay, good.
When we are
I wanna
ready, we
surprise
can
them.
raid now.
Go, go, go.
Go, 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 go.